It was past midnight when Nina finished packing her small suitcase. She had told her husband Paul that she was leaving for a few weeks to go to yoga, but she was actually sneaking off to Bali to visit her son-in-law Ethan, who had recently been abandoned by Nina's daughter Sarah. Nina was horrified that Ethan was left alone with 3 little boys, 5-year-old Noah, 3-year-old Liam, and baby Jacob, who was just over a year old. By all accounts, Sarah had just up and left one day while Ethan was at work, leaving only a vague note that she needed time and space to find herself. Taking one last look around her bedroom, Nina felt a prick of guilt for lying to Paul, but she knew he would never understand her need to support Ethan at this moment. Paul had never approved of Ethan, always thinking that Sarah could have chosen someone better. But Nina knew Ethan was a wonderful man and father, and her heart ached when she imagined how he would single-handedly take care of 3 little boys. Nina crept past the bedroom where Paul slept soundly, his snores echoing faintly down the hallway. She carefully closed the front door behind her, took a deep breath of the cool night air, and headed for the cab that would take her to the airport. Many hours and one long flight later, Nina arrived in Bali. Lush tropical greenery and fragrant frangipani flowers greeted her as she made her way from the airport to the small villa where Ethan and the boys were staying. Nina's heart squeezed with sympathy when Ethan opened the door, dark circles under his eyes from obvious overwork and stress. "Nina, I'm so glad to see you," Ethan said, enclosing her in a tight hug. Nina hugged him back tightly. "I'm here to help, Ethan. We'll get through this together." Nina spent the next 2 weeks in the hassle of cooking, cleaning, taking care of the children, and very little sleep. But she loved every minute she could take care of Ethan and her 3 precious grandchildren. The boys were dealing with the loss of their mother in different ways. Noah was angry and unruly. Liam was quiet and withdrawn, and little Jacob just wanted more hugs. Nina's heart ached for her grandchildren, but she gave them all the love and attention she could. She coaxed Noah to manage his anger, gently encouraged Liam to open up, and cradled baby Jacob in her arms while they napped. In the rare, quiet moments when the boys slept, Nina and Ethan sat on the villa's terrace and watched the ocean. They sipped tea and discussed how the days had gone and how they thought the boys were doing. Ethan was so grateful for Nina's support, and for the first time since Sarah's departure, he felt hopeful that they would get through this as a family. "I just can't thank you enough," Ethan said, and one evening his eyes filled with tears. "I could never have done it without you. Having you here reminded me that I still have a family that loves me and the boys." Nina squeezed his hand reassuringly. "I don't have anywhere else to be. Know that you will always hold a special place in my heart," she replied. Weeks passed, and Nina and Ethan got into the familiar rhythm of raising the boys together. Nina enjoyed bringing warmth and joy into her grandchildren's lives by baking cookies, playing games, and reading bedtime stories. On Ethan's day off, the whole impromptu family would pack a picnic and head to the beach. After lunch, they would swim, build sandcastles, and admire the sunset. In the evening, Nina and Ethan would tuck the tired and happy boys into bed. Nina's heart burst as she saw the positive changes in all of her grandchildren. Noah's angry outbursts had subsided. Liam was back to chatting and giggling, and baby Jacob was babbling sweetly while cuddling with Nina. One evening, when the boys were already asleep, Nina and Ethan lingered outside, watching the palm trees sway gently in the tropical breeze. "I can't even express how much you've helped us," Ethan said. "The boys are thriving because of you. And me. I feel like myself again." Nina squeezed his hand encouragingly. "I'll always be there for you. We're family." As Nina's last day on the island approached, Ethan took her aside. "The guys and I talked," he said. "We were wondering if maybe you might want to stay?" Nina's eyes widened in surprise. Ethan continued hopefully. "I found a little house nearby that would be perfect for you." "Of course, only if you want it yourself. But we can't bear to lose you again." Nina's heart hammered with joy. She enclosed Ethan, and her darling grandchildren in a warm embrace. "Of course I'll stay," she whispered. Nina felt truly blessed for this second chance to not only support the family she loved, but to be a part of this little family again. Nina was happily settled into her new life on the island with Ethan and her beloved grandchildren. She enjoyed participating in their daily lives, making the boys breakfast, taking them to school, and helping with their homework. Her heart sank at how quickly they became dependent on their caring grandmother. Ethan returned to part-time work at a nearby dive shop while Nina looked after the boys. His boss, an eccentric French expat named Jacques, took a liking to Nina and often stopped by the store to bring the family gifts from his travels, sweet tropical fruits from the local market or exotic shells and coral from his diving expeditions. One afternoon, bringing a bag of ripe mangosteens, Jacques took Nina aside and whispered urgently, "I have to talk to you and Ethan tonight. There's something you need to know." Before Nina could ask what he meant, Jacques disappeared in a swirl of his linen shirt. That evening, when the boys were already asleep, Jacques appeared at their door with an uncharacteristically nervous look. "Pardon the mystery, my friends, but I'm afraid one of my clients tonight didn't come just for the reefs. He's been asking strange questions about access to expensive artifacts." Ethan furrowed his eyebrows. "You think he was scouting the area? For theft?" Jacques nodded seriously. Nina felt a chill run down her spine, but tried to put them at ease. "Surely the authorities can handle something like this. What does this have to do with us?" Jacques raised his hand. "Please hear me out. This man also asked many questions about your family. How long have you lived here? When you are home or away?" Ethan and Nina looked at each other in alarm. Nina protectively drew Ethan's hand to hers. Jacques continued, "I'm afraid he thinks you have access to valuable items he might try to steal. Or he wants to harm you in some other way. I should have warned you to be careful. Please be careful, my friends." After Jacques left, Nina and Ethan discussed until late into the night who this sinister stranger might be and what he might want with their family. For the entire next week, they kept a vigilant eye out for anything out of the ordinary, trying not to worry the boys. Nina checked the locks twice at night. Ethan insisted that he stay home with them every night after the dive shop closed. One stormy day, while Nina was home with the boys, the power suddenly went out. Ethan was coming home from work, but couldn't get to them because of fallen trees blocking the road. As Nina was lighting the candles, she heard a loud banging on the front door due to the howling wind and rain. Nina's heart raced as she approached the front door. She gingerly looked out the window and breathed a sigh of relief. It was their neighbor, Kadek, seeking shelter from the storm. Nina invited Kadek inside, where the boys were huddled under blankets in the candlelight. Because of the storm, a branch of a big tree fell and blocked the road out of the village, explained Kadek, trying to catch his breath. "I was just on my way to check on my grandmother, and I had to go back." Nina made hot tea for everyone while listening to the storm raging outside. She tried to call Ethan, but couldn't get through due to the power outage. "I'm sure he's fine," Nina reassured the boys, not wanting them to worry. A few hours later, the worst of the storm finally passed. Kadek went to check on his grandmother and see if the road was clear. Nina put the boys to bed as their usual bedtime had passed. She read to them by candlelight and sang lullabies until they finally fell asleep. Around midnight, Nina was still awake, anxiously waiting for Ethan, when she heard a car pull up to the house. She rushed to the door as Ethan ran inside, soaked to the bone but unharmed. "Thank God you're okay," exclaimed Nina, hugging him tightly. "A huge tree fell right in front of my car, blocking all the paths. I had to ditch my car and walk 5 miles in the storm to get back here," Ethan said, panting. "I was so worried about you when the power went out." Nina quickly brought Ethan some dry clothes. As he warmed up and settled on the couch with a cup of tea, fatigue finally caught up with him. His eyes fluttered open as he laid his head in Nina's lap. She gently stroked his hair, and he fell into a deep sleep. In the morning, sunlight streaming through the windows woke Ethan. Blinking, He found his head still resting on Nina's lap and her hand resting lightly on his shoulder. "Did you stay here all night?" asked Ethan, slowly lifting himself up, rubbing his stiff neck and feeling better rested than ever. "Of course," Nina smiled softly. "I wanted to make sure you were okay." Over the next few weeks, life on the island returned to normal, with sunny days filled with work, school for the boys, and family dinners together in the evenings. One afternoon, Ethan came home from the dive shop earlier than usual with a huge smile on his face. "Jacques just gave me the day off. Let's have a family adventure, maybe take the boys snorkeling." The boys jumped around happily as everyone got ready to go to the beach. Nina packed a picnic basket, and the boys packed snorkeling gear and towels. On the beach, Ethan helped the boys put on life jackets, showed them how to use masks and breathe through snorkels. Nina watched fondly as the four of them, holding hands, waded into the shallow turquoise lagoon. Their heads bobbing up and down, they oohed and eyed as they gazed at the colorful fish and coral below. After snorkeling, the family ate sandwiches and fruit salad on beach picnic towels. As the golden sun set behind the palm trees, Noah and Liam began collecting shells and bits of coral. "Let's make something for Grandma," said Liam. The boys found pieces of sea glass, an abalone shell, and fragrant frangipani flowers to make a gift. With proud smiles, they presented the beach bouquet to Nina. "Thank you, my dears," said Nina, hugging them tightly. Her eyes sparkled as she saw her sweet grandchildren, the man who had become so dear to her heart, and this paradise island that had become her home. She sighed deeply, filling her soul with gratitude for the blessings life had given her. Nina felt that she began to feel for her son-in-law not just maternal feelings, but something more. The feelings that were brewing in her scared her and at the same time caused warmth in her lower abdomen. She wanted to confess to him that she had fallen in love with him like a girl, but she decided to wait for now. She didn't want to ruin what she had today.